You know that feeling when you're trying to rebuild something huge, something really important, but you've just run out of steam? All the hope is gone? Well, imagine an entire nation feeling that way back in the 6th century BCE. And then, in a single night, a series of wild, powerful visions shows up and changes everything. This is the story of the night visions of the prophet Zechariah.
So, try to put yourself in their shoes. You've just come home after 70 long years in exile in Babylon. You're supposed to be rebuilding your sacred temple, the very heart of your nation, but the work is totally stalled out. You're surrounded by enemies, you've got no resources, and honestly, that initial spark of excitement has just fizzled into total discouragement.
So that was the crisis they were facing in Jerusalem. The physical work of laying stones was one thing, but the real challenge? Rebuilding a sense of purpose, a sense of hope. The question just hanging in the air was massive. How do you possibly move forward when you feel completely and utterly defeated? Well, Zechariah's visions were God's answer.
All right, let's get into it. Here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the visions themselves. Then, we'll see what they reveal about God's big plan for the city. After that, we'll witness a pretty dramatic trial in a heavenly courtroom, uncover the real source of strength for the leaders, and finally, we'll unpack what these ancient words could mean for us today.
So, you have the prophet Zechariah. Now, his job was a little different from his buddy, the prophet Haggai. Haggai was all about get up and build, let's get this temple done. Zechariah's mission was to spark an inward spiritual change. He had to get to the root of this crisis of hope.
The first few visions really work together to paint this big, beautiful picture. They're all designed to reassure the people that, look, I know what you see around you is a mess, but God has a grand plan to restore Jerusalem and bring comfort.
The first vision is of these horsemen patrolling the earth, and they report back that the rest of the world is at ease, but Jerusalem is suffering. The message, God sees you. He is acutely aware of what's going on. Then comes the second vision, and this one is all about justice. You see 4 horns, which are basically symbols for the big bad empires that crushed Israel. Think Assyria, Babylon, and then you see 4 craftsmen who are there to throw them down. It's a promise. Your oppressors do not get the last word.
And the next vision just keeps building on this promise. Zechariah sees a man with a measuring line, getting ready to map out Jerusalem. Now, this measuring isn't just for show, it's a symbol that God isn't just hoping for a restoration, He is actively engineering it. It's precise, it's deliberate, every single detail is part of His blueprint. But then, the vision takes this absolutely shocking turn. Just when the people are probably thinking, great, let's build some strong defenses, an angel comes in with a message that must have sounded insane. Jerusalem is going to be a city without walls. I mean, can you imagine? For this tiny, vulnerable community, that sounds like a death sentence.
And this is the whole point. Their real security wasn't going to come from stone and mortar. God Himself promises to be their protection, a wall of fire that no enemy could ever get through. And even more than that, His own presence would be the glory inside the city. True safety wasn't about hiding behind walls. It was about living with God.
Okay, so the city's future is secure. What's next? Well, the visions totally pivot. They shift from the external project of building stuff to the internal restoration of the people themselves. And it starts right at the very top, with their spiritual leader.
All of a sudden, Zechariah is watching a scene unfold in a heavenly courtroom. And the man on trial is Joshua, the high priest. But here's the thing, he's not just standing there for himself. He's representing the entire nation, carrying the weight of all their collective guilt.
This scene is just so intense. On one side, you have the prosecutor, Satan, and his name literally means the accuser. He's pointing at the evidence. Joshua's clothes are disgusting. They're filthy, symbolizing the sin of the people. But the judge, the angel of the Lord, steps in, and he doesn't argue that Joshua is innocent, no. Instead, he just orders the filthy clothes to be taken off and replaced with clean, festive robes and a pure turban.
The verdict has nothing to do with merit. It's this incredible act of pure divine grace. God Himself says, "See, I have taken your iniquity away." He removes the sin and clothes the nation through their high priest in purity. This is what makes their worship, their community, their very lives acceptable to Him again.
So this whole act of cleansing leads right into the climax of the visions. It answers the biggest, most practical question on everyone's mind. Okay, we're forgiven, God has a plan, but how on earth are we, this small, discouraged group of people, supposed to pull this off?
What Zechariah sees is a solid gold lampstand, which represents the temple and the people of Israel.
But this lampstand isn't being lit by some guy with a jar of oil. No, it's being fed a constant, unending supply of golden oil that flows directly from 2 olive trees. And the angel explains that these 2 trees, they are the 2 anointed ones, the political leader, Governor Zerubbabel, and the spiritual leader, High Priest Joshua.
And there it is. That's the mic drop moment of the whole thing. The rebuilding of the temple, the restoration of the nation, it wasn't going to happen because of human strength or a strong army or clever politics. It would be fueled by an endless supply of God's own Spirit, flowing through their leaders to empower the entire community.
So, let's be real. These are complex, symbolic visions from over 2,500 years ago. How have people understood them since then? And more importantly, what can we possibly take away from them in our world today?
Well, there's this one mysterious figure who gets mentioned, someone called the Branch. He's promised to be the one who will build the temple of the Lord. And the identity of this person, well, that's where the interpretations really start to diverge.
Within Jewish tradition, the branch, or tzamach in Hebrew, is often seen as the future Messiah from King David's line, or maybe even a direct reference to Zerubbabel, who was a descendant of David. The fulfillment of all this is largely seen as something yet to happen. In Christian theology, these symbols are read a bit differently. The branch is seen as a title for Jesus. The cleansing of Joshua is viewed as a picture of forgiveness through him, and those olive trees pouring out oil are linked to the Holy Spirit sent to empower believers.
But no matter which interpretive lens you use, the visions of Zechariah are just packed with these huge, timeless themes. They give us a blueprint for finding hope when things look absolutely hopeless. They remind us that there's often a much bigger plan at work than what we can see right in front of us. They teach that real restoration is about healing people from the inside out, not just finishing a project. And maybe most importantly, they point us to a source of strength that is way beyond our own limited power.
And that leaves us with a final thought, one that echoes the same challenge those people faced so long ago. In our own lives, in our communities, in a world full of tough challenges, when we are faced with what feels like an impossible task of rebuilding, Zechariah's visions force us to ask a really important question. Where are we looking for our oil?